Alright, so now for these last two problems down here. The reason this is in a separate video is I noticed I made a mistake. On the bottom here, find the zeros of the function y equals x squared minus 4x minus 9 by completing the square. So this is actually an old problem. You could have done this before today's lesson. Remember, if you want to find the zeros of something, right, you're looking for the roots or the x-intercepts, right? So we actually want to, well, let's see what we're doing. So if we're looking for the zeros, right, another word for zeros are x-intercepts. And if you remember how to find x-intercepts, right, you make the y value equal to 0. So what we're doing in this problem is we're solving this equation. We're solving x squared minus 4x minus 9. And I want you to solve this by completing the square. So the reason we're doing this is I just want to make sure you guys realize the difference with what we were doing before. Right? With before, we're starting with an equation in standard form, right? A function in standard form. And we're taking that function and we're getting it into vertex form. So we're not solving any equation, we're just writing it in a different way. We're writing it in vertex form so we can easily identify the vertex. Right? But completing the square, that's something you can also use to solve equations. So if I ask you to find the zeros of a function, not just getting into vertex form, right, we're going to solve this by completing the square. So the steps are very similar, right? We're going to add 9 to both sides. We get 9 equals x squared minus 4x. Right, we're going to complete the square. To complete the square, we add half of this middle value squared. So I'm going to add negative 4 divided by 2, which is negative 2. Negative 2 squared is 4. I'm going to add 4 to both sides. And that's going to give me 13 equals, when I factor this, that factors to x minus 2 in parentheses squared. Right? So in vertex form, we'd bring this over and there'd be a y here also, right? So we have an equation, but that's not what we're doing here. We're solving this equation. So to solve this equation, we're going to square root both sides. Right, we're trying to get x by itself, right? Solve for x, solve the equation. So don't forget your plus or minus. And we're going to have plus or minus square root of 13 equals x minus 2, right? The square root and the square cancel each other out. And last step is to just add 2 to both sides. So 2 plus or minus the square root of 13 equals x. Right? I cannot simplify this radical because 13 is a prime number. Right? So that's a bit of review for finding zeros using completing the square. Right? We're solving the equation. Right? And compare that to getting this in vertex form by completing the square. Right? If we were to do this by completing the square to get this in vertex form, what we would do is we would add 9 to both sides, but we don't make the y 0, we keep the y. Right? Because we want the function. Right? We still want y equals at the end. We just want to write it in a different way. So, just like we did before, we're going to complete the square. I don't know why I wrote this on a new line. Right, to complete the square, still going to be adding 4 to both sides. But we're going to have y plus 13 this time equals, when we factor this, that's x minus 2 in parentheses squared. And we're not square rooting or anything like that. Right, here is our equation in vertex form. So compare that with solving the equation by completing the square. And this is using completing the square to change from standard form to vertex form. Right, so we're using the same skill, completing the square, to do two different things. Here we're using it to solve an equation, right up there. And down here, going from standard to vertex form. Alright, so that is it for today. Have a great day. And yeah, it's good to be back. See you guys on Wednesday.